It's no different, it's no different than what was sent out, right?
No different,
Okay.
but I've advised everyone, unless you're seeking legal questions, we don't. Everything provided there is in the packet. It's just my synopsis.
Can we ask for discussion what the lawyer recommended?
Recommended denial.
I know, but can we ask that when we're live?
Oh, yeah.
So then we can recommend no closed session?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I will be doing that.
Oh, that's good.
You gotta save a little time.
Ted, I'm already saying
Yes.
like no reason to have a closed session. We're all on board already. I turned my tracker off on him.
Well, wait a minute. All right, being past the scheduled start time, we will call the village board meeting for Tuesday, April 9th to order. Roll is taken. President Heckendorf is excused. All other members are present. Move to agenda item number 2, the Pledge of Allegiance. Agenda item number 3, public hearings. First public hearing is for ordinance 24-03, amending the municipal code section 48-142 pertaining to R6 residential zoning. The public hearing is now open. Anyone wishing to speak? No one speaking. I will now close the public hearing. We will move to agenda item 3B. Conditional use request, Camus Court Jackson LLC, North 171, West 21875, Cayman Court, Groth Design Group. The public hearing is now open. Seeing no one wishing to speak, I will close the public hearing. We'll move to agenda item number 4. Are there any citizens signed up to comment on an agenda item?
No, we do not.
All right, thank you. We'll move to agenda item number 5, consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the items listed for the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comment on these items?
I think we should break out item E separately. That's it, yeah,
Okay. Any other comments? All right, we will consider items A through D and F under the consent agenda motion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. For agenda item 5E, resolution 24-06, TIF District Number 4 Affordable Housing Extension.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2406, tax incremental district number 4, affordable housing extension.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any commentary or discussion on this issue?
based on the previous information we had at previous meetings, we have to make sure that we want to do this as far as where the money's gonna go when we extend it, or is that not part of this resolution? Is it not, is it only part of this resolution that we're saying we're gonna extend it, or how we're gonna use those funds as a separate item? That's my question.
So the resolution itself is authored to direct those funds, and I think statutorily it has to be at least 70 or 75% of those funds have to go towards an affordable housing use, and that's how the Department of Revenue allows for communities to take the final year of increment, in this case 2024 into 25, and apply it to affordable housing. I can tell you that we will be capturing as much and putting almost, if not 100%, towards TID 7 expenses. Those expenses, and that part answers your question, I believe, trustee Engelhardt. But those expenses we've incurred include, not limited to the 2019 borrow for the roadway, extending public utilities, establishing Spruce, an extension of Ridgeway. It includes a lot of professional services that have been a part of making sure the TID is producing. A non-insignificant amount of money was spent on developing the Oaks for professional services. So we've been incurring a lot of expenses that the TID is ripe for reimbursement for if we're open to that extension. A resolution will also subsequently follow indicating the closure of the TID, and that has to happen before April 15th of 2025, I believe. So this is part one of two that the board should be expecting for TID 4.
So basically, in 2025, that will go back, the TID basically goes into, will go into the general tax rule. Okay.
2025, we received the funds. I can't confirm that that's exactly when it goes back to the rules, but we could certainly follow up with that information.
And that money can still be used too to help offset if there's anything left of that with the lot number 1 across the street here too, correct? 'Cause that's still in number 7, correct?
TID.
The affordable housing extension is not related to commercial development. It is only for the Oaks. Is that your question, trustee Emmerich?
Wasn't it 70% has to go to affordable housing?
70%, yes, but in our situation,
It's all.
the TID tremendously benefits from all of it, yes. Just from the TID being started in 2019, we're 5 years into the life of the TID, and we are technically, per the adopted plan, behind in our development of it. But that doesn't mean that we won't still have a very successful TID, it's just that it's developed later than the original TID plan provided for.
Any other discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item number 6, Budget and Finance Committee. Item A is 2024 wastewater treatment plant project, Clean Water Fund loan disbursement request number 1 in the amount of $323,933.23. This came from the Budget and Finance Committee with a recommendation to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2024 wastewater treatment plan project, Clean Water Fund loan disbursement request number 1 in the amount of $323,933.23.
Second.
We have a motion second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item 6B, pay request number 6, Oaks of Jackson for DF Tomasini in the amount of $32,341.03. This came from the Budget and Finance Committee with a recommendation to approve. And I will make that motion.
Second.
Motion second. Any further discussion? Not all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item number 6C, pay request number 5, 2023 utility and street improvements for Vinton Construction in the amount of $44,397.66 came from the Budget and Finance Committee with a recommendation to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve pay request number 5, 2023 utility and street improvements, Vinton Construction in the amount of $44,397.60.
I'll second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item 6D, pay request number 8, the final pay request for the State Highway 60 utility upgrades from Advanced Construction in the amount of $10,000 even. This came from Budget and Finance with a recommendation to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve pay request number 8, final payment, Highway 60 utility upgrades, advanced construction in the amount of $10,000.
I'll second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item number 6E, removal cost for State Highway 60 Main Street streetlights from We Energies in the amount of $51,904.44. Came from the Budget and Finance Committee with a recommendation to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the removal costs for State Highway 60 Main Street streetlights, We Energy, in the amount of $51,904.44.
I'll second. We have a motion and second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item number F, request for letter of credit reduction number 2 for Maple Fields Phase 1. This came from the Budget and Finance Committee with a recommendation to approve. And I will recommend the village board approves credit reduction number 2.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item 6G, review of proposals for village banking services. This came from the Budget and Finance Committee with a recommendation to approve the banking services agreement with Westbury Bank. And I will make a motion to recommend approval of the Westbury Banking Services Agreement.
Second.
Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 6H, review of proposals for village IT services. After some discussion, this came back from the Budget and Finance Committee with a recommendation to approve the 3-year agreement from 24 to 27 with Pros for Technology.
I'll make a motion to accept the 3-year contract with Pros for Technology from 2024 to 2027.
Second.
We have a motion second. Any further discussion?
It's a bunch, but it's.
I guess the only thing I would add is, hearing some of the discussion at the Budget and Finance Committee, I think this is the right move, knowing that the county services, I don't think are fully baked at this time. I think they have the opportunity to get there within a few years. And especially the administrative part with some of the licensing being done individually. And, we had, and this will come up later, but we had at the Mid-Moraine Municipal Association meeting last month, we had the county executive here and we had discussed some of the shared services, and this is one of them. Now, we didn't get into a great level of detail, but I believe myself and Scott Middlestad are gonna have a follow-up with the county executive coming up here, and some of the feedback from tonight I'll certainly bring up regarding the IT shared services, because it does make sense to have all that administration done centrally, especially one of the things with my job now is working with a lot of software systems that I do for financial systems, and the software and licensing environment is changing quite a bit, so it's going to a lot more monthly subscription, software as a service type arrangements instead of just, one-time licensing fees you pay every 3 years, 5 years, whatever, when you implement the product. And with that comes a lot of tiered pricing arrangements, so I think the county could certainly benefit, and the municipalities certainly benefit if they do get all that under one umbrella, where they can take advantage of some of those pricing breaks that could potentially, you know, benefit both the county and the municipalities. So, you know, I think just considering that is something that I think might be able to help us in the future if we can work with the county on, you know, trying to revise what the IT services would be in the future.
So we're looking at like almost 7,000 a month? Is that, if my number's right, 6,687.50, if I'm on the right page? It says monthly, right? Christ.
Any other commentary?
I think the reason the prices are as high as they are is because of the number of stations, computers and whatever that you have, everything is higher than, numbers of things to be serviced are higher than what they were initially, is that correct?
Sure. Yes. That's correct. There's some workstations, but more importantly, there's email accounts. We're doing more and more. Quite frankly, every village employee doesn't have an email account right now. We're still sizing into what our employment force is. There's candidly some employees that don't prompt or require that they have a village email. But that may not be the case, even over the course of the next 3 years, as Freedom of Information Act needs or access to technology may evolve. I can't speak with certainty, but yes, email accounts are included in that price point, that you can't get away from those costs like we were talking about with county services. It just effectively gets shifted from the IT service provider, including it, to then us going and shopping it and managing. There's also other devices or systems that we have now in our facility that we didn't have years ago. Some of those were priced right into our contract right away, and some are being phased into what will start in June for price points, and pros kind of ate it on a couple things we locked in the last round for our contract. So I think that might address your question.
Well, the only other thing I recall reading through it, and I think I read that the county didn't cover the, like, Windows 10 kind of thing that you guys are using at this point.
There were a handful of changes, either with hardware or systems, that would have come or could come into play. I know action is not final. And that's actually already something our current provider is also understanding, that Windows is, and hardware we have deployed already will have to slowly be upgraded anyways. I wouldn't suggest that we're sort of avoiding that cost by any means. That has more to do with security and system updates and what we'll have to adjust to over the next year or two.
Should we look at, what Don just brought up about going with some sharing services with the county? Should we do a 3-year contract if something could happen in the meantime, or we're still locked into this then? You know, if we do a year with them, don't they're giving us a better deal by this? I don't.
Either way, I think all the kinks need to be worked out first.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
I said either way, the kinks need to be worked out first, if this is just starting or going to be
Well, I
starting.
don't get that, but if it's.
And we're still gonna have to contract.
By 27, that might be, you know, it'll save us $80-some thousand, or, you know, by that 1 year kicking the money into the county if we go year to year or something.
There are
Giving us a better deal by signing the 3-year contract, but I don't see a breakdown on here that they are, I mean, the price wise.
There are costs that they then are held to the longer term that you contract them for. Honestly, the board could change what that motion is. Right now, the one on the floor is the 3-year term. But we do save money by locking in if we would have otherwise gone year to year. That applies to so many of the contracts we ourselves carry personally. What I do know, though, is that the county right now is not sized to serve us, so they would need to onboard another staff member. That concept is at play, whether it's us or Germantown or both. At least that's how it was conveyed to me. And there is what we're recognizing as a tangible misstep of, if we move to the county, I'd really be interested in, and probably more openly advise the board consider the county if they were to take on some of those administrative tasks that are not small when we're talking about the number of systems that our community has monitored and managed for us right now. The amount you're seeing on a monthly basis is not more than a 3% increase of what we're currently paying for service. It doesn't include the licensing, computer costs, as we've talked about.
Right, yeah, I get what Brian's saying, and I have no problem, yeah, I get, if we're not truly getting a break, it's more risk of future increases by going 1 year versus 3 year. I'd be okay with a 1 year agreement and, obviously taking some of the concerns that staff has to the county and working with them to say, hey, are these things that can be worked out? These are sticking points for us entering into a shared services agreement, because, one, we're not ready to handle some of these things individually, the administrative part of the licensing, but then also just getting a better feel of their capabilities with the platforms and systems that we're currently operating, versus what we have with Pros for Technology now. Because I think it's something where I certainly see the county getting there. They certainly seem to, that's one area of focus that they want to have a shared services center. So I could certainly see them improving and adding resources there. So, in 3 years, it might be something where it's fully baked and we might have regrets of maybe having missed a couple years of low or no cost services.
I think the other parallel I recognized while we were talking is if they do continue the biennium budget process, we're now in a new budget period for them, a 24 and 25. So by 26, well, as policymakers, you work on an annual basis, at least from a financial standpoint, and they work on a 2 year. So we'll be able to see another cycle to see if that funding remains. And that doesn't necessarily prompt then stability there onward. But just from a policymaker's seat, as you're all in, you can understand that another cycle would give you another signal of some kind, paired with hearing how those other communities who have bigger systems like the village, more extensive services, I wouldn't say the communities they're serving, at least right now, have that level of need we do.
Sure.
I guess I just want to say, I think that the 3 year is the way to go at this point anyhow. I do like the potential for shared services, but it sounds it's pretty fledgling. Let it grow in the next 2 or 3 years, see where it goes from the IT standpoint at the county. I guess one of the telling things for me was that VC3 decided not to even look at the options. That was the other potential bidder on the project. I mean, based on the information here, it considered at a later date, they believe the village is well served at a comparable cost. To me, it seems like competitively, we're pretty much there. We have a good history with Pros 4. And I think that going out 3 years isn't going to really cost us that much in the end. It's going to be probably stable, and then we can see where the county goes from there. That'd be my feeling anyhow.
Any other discussions, comments? Tim?
Okay, you said that the county's on a biannual budget, so basically, what the dealer is saying right now is that's what the cost's gonna be for the next 2 years theoretically, correct? Okay, it's too late for us to do anything now this year anyway, because we missed the non-re-update for the existing vendor, right? So we're obligated for 1 year only. Does it make sense to ask if we can have a 2 year instead of a 3 year, is the other question. That would then get into in sync with the county's systems, if that were the case, or their probably budget, I should say. Just a question.
The only thing you win at is just you lock in a rate for longer. It provides obviously stability to the IT environment, but those are the benefits. The admittedly, funny part of RFPing for this is I picked up the phone and said, I'm the one that proposed we get into a contract and a term schedule, so otherwise we wouldn't be talking about this, and there's effort that has to go into that routinely, and I'm not saying that the taxpayer shouldn't expect that oversight of a larger priced, contract or service. But I will say there's some efficiencies that come in, a bit more of a 2 to 3 year look back instead of an annual or a biannual. The longer you go, that you shop it enough, but you're not sort of looking as long as you would have otherwise been doing something else. And I don't mean to imply that 2 years isn't a reasonable term. I'm just saying the 3 years seemed like a, more meaningful amount of time.
I fully understand and agree with that. If it wasn't for the option of having a county shared services where you're looking at a low or no cost arrangement for at least the beginning part of it, I wouldn't, and I would, not speaking for Tim or Brian, I don't think we would be discussing a 1 year versus a 3 year. We'd comfortably go with the 3 year arrangement, but knowing that, the county is trying to get this up, and this is, there was a referendum a year ago regarding sales tax sharing, and the county doesn't want to explicitly hand out just, hey, here's your share of the sales tax, but what they're offering to do is various grants, shared services arrangements, things like that. So this is, one of our opportunities to get basically, part of that for the village. So that's where, obviously, it's been explored. It doesn't work for us for this next year, certainly, but a year from now, it might, 3 years from now, it might. And I think that's, from my perspective, that's worth exploring, just with the, certainly potential for cost savings there being, percentage-wise, and significant savings over what we currently have. Any other discussion? All right, if not, we already have a motion and second on the floor for the 3-year agreement with Pros for Technology. So all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. Motion carries. Sorry, I was looking at some detail and mine is loading slowly here. All right. Agenda item number 7, Plan Commission. 7A, ordinance 24-03, amending the municipal code section 44 or 48-142 pertaining to R6 residential zoning.
I move we approve ordinance 24-03, amending municipal code section 48-142.
I will second that. Any discussion? All right. Hearing that, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Plan Commission item number 7B, conditional use request for Camus Court Jackson LLC, North 171, West 21875, Camus Court, from Groth Design Group.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
can I just ask if Colin is aware if there's any time sensitivity to the ordinance itself, as the singular motion is a first reading for this evening, and that's again related to the R6 residential zoning.
Good point. The certified survey map for this parcel is actually being up for consideration at the Plan Commission next week, so I would certainly ask that a second reading occur this evening.
All right. Hearing that, we will, on 7A, I am looking for a motion to suspend the rules and proceed with the second reading right away.
So moves.
Second.
All in favor, do we need a roll call vote for this?
Trustee Engelhardt,
Aye.
trustee Krupke,
Aye.
Trustee Olson,
Aye.
trustee Wells,
Aye.
trustee Matter,
Aye.
trustee Emmer.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. All right, so that has passed, so I will move to introduce ordinance 24-03.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 7B, conditional use request for Camus Court Jackson LLC and 171 W21875 Camus Court from Groth Design Group.
I'll make a motion, we approve the conditional use request for Camus Court Jackson LLC, North 171, West 21875, Camus Court for Groff Design Group.
I'll second that, per staff comments, add that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item 8, Parks and Recs Commission. Rental approval required for the Washington County Democratic Party Annual Picnic on September 14th, 2024.
A motion, we approve the rental approval required for Washington County Democratic Party annual picnic, September 14th, 2024.
Second.
We have a motion second. Any further discussion? Not all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item 9, Personnel Committee. 9A, review and discussion of chapters 1, 2, and 3 of the Village of Jackson Employee Handbook regarding general personnel policies, employment policies, and classification and compensation policies.
I will tee up discussion. This is the second time we're bringing forward updates to our employee handbook for you all to consider. The last time we've spoken, it was with regards to section 4 related to leave policies. Since then, the executive leadership team, myself, and the village attorney has taken a pencil to paper on sections 1 through 3, which relate to general personnel, employment, and classification and compensation. I would just start with high level and then yield back to the body for specific questions. But at the Personnel Committee, we discussed the importance of section 1, the general personnel policy relates to some travel reimbursement. We're gonna be actually sophisticating some of the ways in which we verify that there's active or valid driver's licenses for authorized employees to use village vehicles. It's our onus to make sure that they're current with that. We also even, and I didn't describe this at the committee, so I didn't mean to shortchange you all, but we went into things that otherwise were a little sticky, like what happens if I get in an accident in my own car on village business? What happens if I get a speeding ticket in the village car on village business? So a lot of that was just clarified, not because we have either of those situations, but sometimes we bump elbows with colleagues and say, hey, what's been some important stuff you did in your handbook? And so some of those practical provisions are added in for safe measure. Other than those, section 1, and that actually deals with not just vehicle use, but facility use. We went ahead and Director Valentino offered some reduced costs to use the community center to employees. That was very kind of her, a little gimme that we added. But I would say, an employee does still have to compensate the hourly rate of that supervisor, so it's not at the loss of the taxpayers. We do also have employment policies that you'll probably notice the most changes actually resulted from legal's review. The village labor attorney isn't too fond of considering a probationary period if there's not any sort of meaningful change to what happens to how that employee is compensated or managed. There are introductory periods or probationary periods where wages are adjusted after the fact. There's certifications that are required within a certain period of time. So it's not as if we have to do away with them. Legal would just like us to be a bit more specific with which employees get them. So that's probably gonna take more work talking to them about it. This is an opportunity for you to tell me, push back, Jen, we're keeping it, and I can do so. We have some contact with the media clarifications. We do have a statutory clerk. We do have a department leadership that has the, not just ability, but intelligence and understanding of how departments operate, that our handbook prohibited anyone from doing so. And I don't have any issue with those individuals speaking directly to the media to report out official village business. But in the event that authority needed to be pulled back, there is a provision to say from time to time, the village administrator in writing may rescind or revoke that type of an authority. Complaint policy we found in the handbook, it wasn't necessarily understood why the employee handbook would include a citizen complaint policy. We effectively simplified that and said, make sure that you're receiving a complaint and you're directing it to the most applicable department. We're not making them step by step go through, write the date, write the time, write the location, it just didn't seem like the right place. So that's really section 2. And 3 was more about cleaning up how overtime is addressed, how weekend call-ins are addressed, and holiday pay. You'll see some of the language in the red line version walks through all of these specific changes. It's probably the version that I'd prefer we reference if there are very detailed questions that the board wishes to ask, and I'll pause there to let the rest of the board ask or advise staff on this matter. And one more thing. The prescribed motion in the packet actually does build in that, if we need to go back to legal, which I know I have a couple things I am gonna clarify. I just wanted to wait to get everybody's feedback before doing it too often, that these changes go in effect May 1st. Gives us more than enough time to clarify and implement.
Any discussion from the board? I didn't see anything that I found to be objectionable with the edits that were made.
I didn't,
It seemed to be fairly thorough in some areas, which was good.
Jen, was this looked over by our legal counsel? Any these changes in there?
They've all been looked at least once. We do have language in there that they've placed, that since they've placed, we're going to ask them more about. But legal has had at least one, if not 2, reviews of this section. So we're really reserving one last conversation with them for things that staff request information on. Or the board. You still have time.
do we have a motion yet?
No,
I don't think so.
no, we jumped right into the review, the discussion of the changes.
Well, I'll make a move that we approve the changes to the personnel handbook.
I'll second. With that, any further discussion on this agenda item? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item 9B, review and discussion of professional services agreement with Washington County for the shared planner services.
I'll make a motion, we approve it.
I'll second.
We have a motion second. Any further discussion on this agenda item?
Yeah, if they come up with, if we use the county for the planning services, okay. If it's still optional for the board to accept or reject whatever they suggest we would like to have done, correct?
Okay, scope of work type question, trustee Engel?
Well, yes, okay, if they say, you should really have 4 lanes going down Highway 60 here, because that's a much better plan for the future. Do we as a board say, no, we don't want to have 4 lanes going down the road?
The intention of engaging the services are to do so in a very similar or the same way we engage in a consultant planner right now. It's not to have them come to us and bring forward matters to change. It's primarily to be there in an advisory capacity and really largely for plan commission applications. This person would, however, similar to how we would have utilized our consultant planner now, act in advisory capacity to the sewer service area, potentially like a full amendment, not just one property change like we're working through right now. We have an entire boundary that we want to look at and review. We have larger scale endeavors. This person could help be a part of any sort of future comprehensive plan update. This person can be another set of helpful hands to the zoning code update, which isn't for that person to manage. That is a separate engagement. We're still gonna seek a second competitive quote for and still rely upon a dedicated consultant for. But this is largely advisory. Not a voting member of Plan Commission, not the central support staff member. They're here to support and supplement myself, as well as matters that relate to zoning that Colin assists with. So it's meant to be more muscle on the bench. No one would be stepping out beyond that realm.
That's the only question I have.
All right, any other discussion on this agenda item? All right, we have a motion and a second in favor of the agreement. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item number 10, West Bend School District Report.
Okay, the next meetings for the facility long-range planning there's 2 of them coming up, either on Tuesday, April 16th at 6 PM or Thursday, April 25th at 6 PM, both at the West Bend West Cafeteria. And that's just kind of the next step in the planning process, discussing the possible solutions and getting more feedback from the community before they completely decide what to do.
All right, thank you. Item 11, Washington County Board Report. I know Brian usually receives these. Have you received anything?
Nothing was received.
Okay. Then we'll move on to agenda item number 12, Greater Jackson Business Alliance.
I got some information from President Debbie Zeinert. I'm sorry. Got some information from President Debbie Zeinert, just to fill us in a little bit on a few things that they are working on. The next meeting that they will be having, that the Alliance will be having, is a breakfast meeting on May 15th at the Jackson Community Center. There will be a topical discussion about insurance, especially business insurance. Scholarship program is gearing up right now. It's spring, so scholarships are underway. Action in Jackson volunteer sign up will start next week, and they're working on ideas to help the Main Street businesses during the resurfacing project of Highway 60, as different lane closures and things like that affect the businesses as it affects them, and hopefully include some signage.
All right, thank you. We'll move to agenda item number 13, Mid-Moraine Municipal Association Report. So in the month of March, on Wednesday, March 13th, was the regular legislative committee meeting here in Jackson. The speaker was Washington County Executive Josh Schulman. He was primarily speaking about the various shared services initiatives from the county, including EMS grants, which I know President Heckendorf has been involved in some of those discussions, shared dispatch services, shared IT services, some of their involvement with the Next Generation Housing Program, lead lateral replacement, and some additional initiatives as well. So And just encouraging the municipalities to work with the county on these initiatives. You know, some have been around for a couple of years, some are just getting started. On Wednesday, March 27th was the dinner meeting hosted by Cedarburg. The speaker was Tony Heckert from the League of Wisconsin Municipalities. And the topic of discussion was the end of session legislative update. Tomorrow, the Mid-Marine meets here at 7 PM. The speakers are gonna be the Ozaki County Administrator and their County Board Chair, and they're gonna be talking regarding some, mental health, support teams, an opiate harm reduction effort, and affordable rental housing efforts. And then, and a little bit early, but we've got the agenda out for the meeting in May on the 8th. And the topic of discussion there is going to be the declining public schools enrollment and how this impacts the state property tax formulas. So that'll be an interesting one as well that affects a lot of the communities around here. So we will go to the next agenda item, number 14, notice of claim from Kendra Majeski, North 173, West 20230 Crestview Drive. And I believe information was sent out earlier and is available in hard copy form here as well.
So we can get everything open here. I'll make a motion to decline the claim, recommend that the board declines the claim.
I can clarify that some materials that are important for the board's action and consideration tonight would be acting upon the claim would either prompt approval of the resolution of disallowance, which would effectively deny the claim. Otherwise, we would go into what would be a settlement agreement, which would take into account any sort of documentation provided in the notice of claim and the costs that the claimant is seeking reimbursement for. Any other questions, I'll go back to the chair.
Okay.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the resolution for disallowing the claim.
Second.
A motion, a second, any discussion?
I got a few questions. Brian, back when I moved in, built my house in 2000, I moved in 2001, like February, March, somewhere in there. I got a letter from you and Jim Meachek. I had hairline cracks in my sidewalk that you guys are gonna hold up me moving in until I got those fixed. So my builder made an agreement with you guys that I'd fix them when it got warm out, and I did. So my take on this is that the sidewalk is technically owned, or the village sidewalk, but I'm responsible as a homeowner to maintain those sidewalks, is that correct? Just like I have to shovel and everything else.
Yes, so if you look at, in the ordinance, it's up to 30 years. It's under the village engineer's discretion of the condition of the sidewalk. So we used to do it, you know, was two things: to repair that sidewalk when it was cracked. So it was when you first moved in, and then we had the property maintenance inspection. We would do that, and then state legislation ruled that out. So now what we do is we do Safe Step. The village never really had a sidewalk program, and that's something we should look at too. So
I know I talked to the police chief about this, just to see if she had called, you know, it was a rescue call, and obviously it wasn't the information we had, but she never contacted anybody from the village if this happened until we got the claim. I'm assuming that's how it came in. We just got the letter, we got contacted by her. She never had called, it wasn't a rescue squad call, the police were never contacted, so nothing could be documented. When I did my job the last 20-some years, when we had an injury on city sidewalk or city property, the police came out, we did a report on it, took photographs, everything else that was documented. I think the police chief said that they are doing that if we get called, and I think we should have a policy on that just to make sure that if the rescue squad gets paged out somewhere for a fall or injury, that we make sure we have the police go and document this, pictures, get information, and do a quick narrative, or however you guys do your report, so it's documented, so we have, that to protect us as well, and, the public, just so everything's documented. So we don't know, I'm assuming this happened, but who knows? We never were called. It's like a car accident. People come in, how many days later or a month later, I got hit. How do you know you weren't drunk and you went off the road? We don't know. I mean, if you're not called there, we don't know what happened, to document it. So I think that'd be a good thing for us to do. And the sidewalk thing, I think we should get something, whether DPW goes out and we inspect sidewalks, certain areas, this is another topic for another discussion, another time, but, and then the cost of, are we gonna put money away for the village to fix the sidewalks? Are we gonna build a homeowner or split it? That's all, stuff to talk about later, but we should be working on something like that so this doesn't come back to be a problem again, so.
We did have, I don't know if you would call it committee, with committee of one, many years ago before your time, that would walk the sidewalks and report back of what they found. Of course, that was the same time we had a beautification committee also that took care of the weeds, it took care of junk vehicles sitting around, anything that didn't look nice, street lights that were out. But a lot of them sort of fell to the side because there was a pain in the butt to do, actually. And so it's right now, Colin is the beautification committee, but he's got more important things to do than beautification. And I don't know, we could have the police on foot a little more, and they could mark down or a spray can of pink paint. They could spray where that sidewalk should be replaced, or the fire department could take a section and walk on a training night or something, but you can go as far as you want with this, and but you gotta have follow-up to it then. If the sidewalk that needs replacing, then it's gotta be replaced. And what happened was, sidewalk would be mentioned, this should be replaced, this should be replaced. Yeah, but the village doesn't have the budget to do it. So it never got done, so it was sort of a thankless job for whoever was doing it. So you keep that in mind, it's gotta be a program that you have to work on then, which I think is a good idea. Just one example, down next to the old snack shack on the north side, their sidewalk. What does this cover on the sidewalk that's a horrendous tripping hazard? Is that a cover to something underneath?
If you're talking about, we fixed that now.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah. It actually was failing at the
I
curb.
apologize to interject, but we do have to stay on the agenda topic item for Robert's rules.
Okay.
All right. Any other commentary regarding the claim?
Did you go out there and look where she said she fell? If you,
Right, so if you look at, in your packet, the last, I believe that you put that in there. So I did, Jen said, hey, it would be nice, and I did look at it. Tried to find it, and this was back in beginning of March. And I couldn't find it because the address she gave in the email does not exist in the village, is one thing. So I did walk around the block trying to find it. They actually had a major, a bigger trip hazard in their driveway, but looking at it today, it actually settled, and it's less than 3/4 of an inch, which is less than the hazard or your threshold that you have for ADA compliance. So, yes, I just want to say, throughout the village, we have a lot of trip hazards. It's sad that she did trip, and you just got to watch yourself on it. Yes, there is other areas of sidewalks that are higher than 3/4 of an inch, and we try to do, it's called Safe Step, where we grind them down. Been working on that. That's a lot cheaper than going and replacing, sidewalk. Even a great example is now with the Highway 60 resurfacing project, where in the next month here, we're gonna walk the whole project and make sure all the sidewalk gets replaced that is bad or a trip hazard. So we try, through the process without having a program.
Any other discussion?
If you wouldn't mind, trustee Olson, I do want the board to recognize that the documentation provided indicates that there are going to be continued bills. I understood that to mean that the claimant would be seeking reimbursements on an ongoing basis. The notice of disallowance that was drafted does reference that February 7th incident date. And so it's my understanding, after talking with legal, that by approving the resolution of disallowance, you're also memorializing that any additional claims that are connected back to medical services for that February date, we are also noticing that we're denying sort of liability or responsibility. So as long as this body's confirming or comfortable with that provision, I will simply work with legal, should that be the case, forward.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All right, there's a motion and a second on the resolution disallowing claim. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. As the claim has been voted on and denied, we will not require closed session for agenda item 15 or reconvening into open session for agenda item 16.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Have a good night, everyone.
Well, can we stay longer?